So, welcome to today's class. So many of people have come, and many people have again come. Gopi has come. Gopi was there in that class of the first class when I discussed the same class, developing from idea to a story. And this is also important class. So Aparna has also come. So welcome everybody, and so I will begin today's class. So first I will go to the two queries which like sent to me by Matthias and one more person. So Matthias' query was that when I am writing a scene in my script, just that format of the script. So suppose two people are at different places. It could be within a city, outside country, and when they are talking, or suppose I want to show the action, let us say when they are talking on telephone, how we will write that in the script. As I mentioned yesterday also, suppose I am talking to Matthias who is in UAE and I am in India. So in the script first I will write interior, my interior house of Nikhil dash night. Nikhil picks the phone and call Matthias. Then at the center, dialogue of Nikhil. Hi Matthias, are you there? How are you? Hi Matthias, how are you? Then I will put cut to. The scene, next scene is the location of Matthias. Interior dot space room of Matthias in UAE dash night. Matthias is on the phone. This simple line action I will write. Then dialogue of Matthias. Hi, I am good. What are you doing? Now here, if you want, you have already given descriptions of two locations where they are talking. Now from the Matthias dialogue, you can add Nikhil's Nikhil, Mathia, whatever is there talking. And but before that, when you write the action, you can give a note to the director that this following talking will be, or following dialogues will be intercut, or it can be off screen or on screen as per the requirement of editing. This note you can put. Some people prefer to write the dialogues with each changing location of the each scene. And suppose they want to write, suppose first the location of Nikhil's house in India, cut to Matthias' house, cut to Nikhil's, cut to Matthias. You can also write that, but I would say that would waste a lot of energy and time. And also because already when we are on the editing table, then the director and the editor decides which dialogue should be kept. Also when we are shooting, we will shoot reactions of both the actors, and we want both the actors to perform. And it is also important that sometimes we are doing a sync sound on the location, and this sync sound means we are not doing dubbing. Later on in the studio, we are recording the dialogue at the location. For that also, it is important that we not only shoot the video part but also record the sound part so that ambience remains the same. Now I think this thing is clear. About the ambience part, I wanted to tell you something very important. Some of you might become directors, and there is a very interesting history of sound, and I will call some of my friends from the sound designing. If you are interested, you can also come to that class. Now the importance of ambient sound is very much in the films. And one example is of the movie Cast Away. They were shooting at a far location. The movie Cast Away, in which Tom Hanks is the main protagonist, playing the main lead role. So they shot this movie at a very far place, and there was a shot where some bamboos fall, and they did not record the sound of those bamboos at that place, and they went back to Hollywood, America, and they started to create the ambient sound. And when that scene of that ambient sound came of those bamboos, they could not recreate that sound. So they sent their team again to that place and they recorded the sound over there. Not only the sound of those bamboos, but also the ambience. And so I would suggest, as I said, that leave that when it is about the dialogue part, then leave that up to the writer, up to the director, that how a director will, how much he wants to keep video of their talking. I think it is clear. Now I will, if there is any doubt, you can send me. The next thing was someone sent me script. Now first, when you are working, when you are going to be a professional script writer, you invest in script writing software, and Final Draft is used widely. I mean, 95% is a data, but I think more than that, it is used widely, and it is expensive. But you think that in terms of that, you will work for next 5 years in writing. Suppose within those 5 years, if you have Final Draft at your fingertips, and if you have the whole story structure in your mind, of course you have to write synopsises, short synopsis, long synopsis, but you can go and type a complete movie script or web script, a web series script. I wrote one script. It's a romantic movie in Hindi. Dialogues were in Hindi, but it's a romantic movie for Bollywood. I wrote one script without any story or synopsis. I had no story. Like it was in my mind, but I directly wrote on Final Draft software. Apart from that, I made one animation film. It's also available on YouTube without any story and without any script. It took 3 months for me to make that animation film. I made it on a software which was already there. What I had to do was I had to arrange the characters and settings. The animations bodies were already there, so I had to arrange, give the dialogues, story lineup, dialogues, and framing of those things. But I did not write any script for that. I directly made a movie. Another script on which I made a movie. That movie is also available on YouTube. Its name is Checkmate. So if you type Checkmate, Nikhil Sablania, Checkmate Hindi movie, and it is with English subtitles. That movie also, I wrote the script, but that script I wrote on typewriter without any story. But there was a major flaw in that script, and that reflected in the story. Now that is why I am stressing again and again that start writing in Final Draft. That story, when I typed, and the dialogues were not into that format. I knew the format, but it was my conscious decision to type that on typewriter. I wanted to go fast actually, to type it in 3 days, 7 days maximum, then go and shoot it. And I shot it for I think 10 days. So what happened that I wrote dialogues like you have a page of a script. It's in the A4 size. So I put A4 size paper on the typewriter. Then I wrote the interior, and that story is also about one act structure. But within that one act, there is definitely a three act structure. But as we talked about the structures, you can go and you can watch, and you will find it very similar to one act structure, because I already worked on one act structure in my film school. There was an exercise. Before that exercise, I read a novel, so I already worked on that. Now, what problem was there in that script? So I did not had to like type the scenes like locations. So location was a single location, or there were like two three locations like same parts of the house: kitchen, toilet, bedroom, drawing room. These were the mainly locations. Now when I type the script, I type it like action, then dialogue starting from the left side, and I wrote the dialogue from left to going to the top right and then coming back. So like the actions format. And I wrote 73 or so pages, and I thought that somewhere these dialogues are in the longer format, so it will be more than 73 minutes. It will be like it would go to 90 minutes. That was something I presumed. But if I had written that in the final draft, my presumption won't be there. It wouldn't be there. And we shot the movie, and I was so much confident that I have made a 90-minute movie. But it came out to be little more than 70 minutes. Though 70 minutes or 75 minutes, something like that. So when you are writing professionally, write in that format. Another thing, that if you are writing in English, so stick to some basic grammar rules of the English. Third thing, give lesser dialogues and write more actions. So these things, these two queries which I got yesterday. So let us come to the today's class, which is about developing an idea to a story. So all of you must be aware about watching different movies in different genres. But when we are writing, we we generally take what we like actually. If I like horror, I will take horror, but first do research. So how to get the idea? I mean, idea can come from anywhere. It can come from research. It can come from watching something. It can come from mythology. Idea can come from anywhere. But first, you look at yourself, that at what position you are as a writer. If you write some big budget movie now, that might be sold after you becoming successful, or suppose you get someone to buy your script. But even if someone buys your spec script or speculative script, might be some company, some studio, or some of your friend thinks that this script is good, and you will sell him for some money. But when the time comes for that company or your person, he or she or they will go to a bigger director. But it is or not always like that. I tell you one example, and you will be amazed to know the Transformer series came like I think in the last 10 years, and four movies, I think three or four movies have been made on Transformer series. But the first script was written, I think back in 1984 or 87. Now you see at this movie, Transformer, at that time when the writer wrote that movie, there were some programs and some movies were there on robots. But he might have not conceived that his imagination would take such a beautiful form. So you can write, and he never thought that so much changes will happen in the industry, in the field of science, that such movie will could be possible. Like if you watch this movie Terminator, it's not very easy to conceive in 80s about such changes would happen. So you can write such scripts. It's good. It's good for practice. It's good for learning genres. When I wrote my first science fiction, I wanted to write a science fiction. I was a science student. I have already, at that time, I had already seen so many movies, but I went to the store. I bought some novels. I ordered some books which were by the scientists, which were written by the scientists. I watched some movies in cinema theater, and after that much research, I wrote my script, my first science fiction. So good that you do research and good that you write such scripts which might be used in the future. But also think about writing small scripts which could be produced in a lower budget but with interesting ideas. And secondly, the use of myth in the ideas. Nowadays, there is a two kind of world are there. One, the world of news and social media, and another is the world of fictional work, the world of web series or the world of movies. And the audience is looming in between that world. So you should also go and be actively participate into that world also. See what kind of opinions are built, what kind of opinions are destroyed. And it's a very fast moving world. You take the example of this recently has happened between Philistine and Israel. Now when I was a kid, we used to watch a lot of news of Philistine and Yasser Arafat. Every day Yasser Arafat was on TV, and that whenever there was tussle, it was going for many years. But now due to the social media, the intervention has come so early and that dispute is settled. So the world is changing, and you as a writer should also think about that world, and you should learn about that world. And nowadays lot of petitions come to save the environment. Environment has become the theme of today. So you should also try to know that what themes would go into the future. We have seen the nuclear phase and we have seen the nuclear disaster. If you have not watched, then go and watch Chernobyl, which is based on the Russian nuclear explosion and what happened after Chernobyl and during particularly that time. Recently, the debris of Chinese this satellite was falling and everyone was worried. And this thing has happened earlier also. So these are our future themes. But these future themes will be produced only by big producers, not by small producers, like the themes of pandemics, the themes of international conflicts. And already there are many movies which have been made. You also try to find what are the archetypes in your country or for the country for which you are making the movie. They work wonderfully. I was thinking about the archetypes in India. Now, what are archetypes? As I said, someone who was very famous or very infamous, like Jack the Ripper, very infamous, or might be someone who is having bad memories into the memories of society. So when I was thinking about India, the archetypes which came to my mind were like the Buddha, Bhagat Singh. I mean, Bhagat Singh is very much neglected archetype. His work, his sacrifice was immense, and apart from sacrifice, the letter which he wrote, and he was not, he wrote a letter in which he criticized even the friends who were hanged at that time. So Bhagat Singh is a very strong archetype for our generations, and likewise in different countries there are various archetypes. The people who are very much influenced, who have influenced the memories of the masses, either in a wrong way or in a bad way. But that has to be there, that memory has to be there. And if you don't have that, then go to the myths. You can go to the myths, and myths are having very beautiful stories. I was listening this audiobook on the Greek and Roman myths, and I was fascinated to know that most of our vocabulary in English is based on the gods and goddesses, and they also have some beautiful stories. So those stories you can use, because these stories are not, we might not know about these stories, but if you go to the various mythologies, you will find very similar. I mean, the story of the sun god Cronus is very similar to the story of Kans. Kans, and the names are very similar. The story of Pandora is very similar to the story of Saraswati. They both represent same thing. And when you go to these stories, you adapt them and put them in the today's situation, and you just think that what the person today will do in today's scenario, not in what was there in the story. So myths are good sources of stories. Then courtrooms, the very famous trials or infamous trials. They are also, recently some movies were made in India like Pink, but courtroom trials. So courtroom dramas are very good source of stories. Now coming to the point that how we will develop these ideas to the story. So first thing and very famous thing is that whether your idea is feasible. Feasibility means can it be produced on the screen with lower budget. So write something so that that could be produced in a lesser budget. But also remember that lesser budget doesn't mean that you restrict your story too much. I wrote a script, its name was Blind Date, and it was again into a one location. So actually in 2008 some movies came and they were like that, and producers were asking for the similar kind of movies, like give us something like one room drama, two room drama. So I wrote these scripts at that time. They could be now produced with lesser budgets for apps, like for Netflix or Netflix movies. Some movies are very big movies, but some are very low budget movies. But theme should be good. Story element should be good. There is a one more word which is used in cinema: spectacular. Something which is pleasurable to your eyes. Like I would say, a Spider-Man movie is a spectacular movie. or Saving Private Ryan, or the Pearl Harbor. I mean, Pearl Harbor is a spectacular movie. It is worth watching. Why worth watching? It pleases the eyes, might be by dinosaurs or some rockets launching, whatever. We go into detailing of the things which we generally don't watch with the eyes, like with matches. Nowadays, matches are spectacular. We are at home and we are watching in a slow motion. So that slow motion becomes spectacular. So being spectacular is very important aspect in writing for screen. Now if you look at a movie, I mean, I'm forgetting that Chang Yamu is the director, Chinese director. His movies are, some of his movies are very spectacular. Spectacular in the sense, I will give you one example. There is a one movie which is based, the most of the locations used in that movie is about coloring of the clothes, like the old setup, you can say the old factories where clothes were dyed, they were colored, and the instruments used in those factories, they were handmade instruments, handmade machines made up of mainly of woods. And in today's time we don't see such kind of place. So it is a kind of spectacular character given to the script. Okay. Some question has come, I will come to that later on. So spectacular means something related to the visual aspect of the story. Interstellar is a movie which you have seen. It is a spectacular movie. Dinosaur, watching dinosaurs, but not always that you go for such digitally produced movies. I mean, the concept of spectacularness can also come if you find some location, like you think that this location is never recorded, I will write a movie on such location, and you ask the directors to go and shoot it there. It will also become spectacular. And sometimes it's the directors which choose a particular shot taking, but you as a movie writer also think about something interesting, the location. Or suppose I make a movie, now we have not seen, earlier we were not have access to any, to go into the, suppose to go into the factory of airplanes or some other factory. If you go into a factory, the bulkness of the machines, that is also becomes spectacular. Or sometimes you go to the close shots, that also becomes spectacular. So you keep this thing in the mind that apart from a story, apart from a drama, this has to be spectacular, means pleasure of watching it on the screen should be also there. Now today my friend called me, one of my friend called me, and he wanted to write a, I mean, he wanted to produce actually a web series, and he told me a story. Now you have an idea, you have done the research of your idea, you have seen lot of movies, you have gone to some scripts, you have read some history, some mythology, or thought about it that my location will be this, it will look spectacular. Now comes to the part that you got an idea, you have written an idea. Now suppose I will make a movie on human sacrifice. So that gravity of my writing should move forward. It should be at a higher level. Suppose I saw that there are some movies where one person is sacrificed. I will show that 10 people will be sacrificed. Sometimes I see a movie that a person is going underwater. Now if you watch a movie, its name is underwater, and we know that at maximum a submarine can go to 600 meters. But in that movie, the drilling machines, the platforms, they are more than 10 miles deeper, almost 10 miles deeper in the sea. So that thing should also be there, that it should, the next work, which is your work, should move forward. It shouldn't be already seen by the other people. And after you have your idea, the next thing which you want to do is developing it into a story. How to develop it into a story is the major task. I won't say that it is the ultimate task, but it is a major task. And writing is also a major task. But first, you have to pass this threshold, that whether I would be able to write a cinematic story and a story with good structure. I already sent you links of hero's journey. We have discussed structure, and I have also made a video which I have already sent you on 3-act structure. So if you have not gone through that material, please go, because that will be your guidance for the story. Whether you want to put it into particular style given a particular name of the structure, or whether you want that story into a different structure. But whatever structure you give to your story, 3-act is somewhere at the core, that is hero's journey. 3-act, I would say, is a hero's journey, but not necessary, as we have seen in the biographicals, where it is like a piece of music, which I have already told. So that's those structures, in particular 3-act, is a kind of skeleton on which you have to put the muscles. Now, I have already discussed the first act, second act, and third act. Some things I missed, and I will come to the dialogue and characters, developing character later on. It is a character of buddy. Many people are having a buddy character, and very commonly used term is buddy character. It's the friend of the main character, or someone who accompanies him. It could be one, two, three, four, five. Depends upon the story you are writing. But it is not necessary. I mean, this is not a kind of thumb rule, but it is a kind of traditional way, and it helps in telling the story. That is one thing. When you give names to your character, at what time you start giving names to your character? You start giving names to your character right from the time when you develop an idea to a story. So when you are writing, when you are developing an idea into a story, at that time you start thinking of the name. Now, what name you would give? See, most of the time when we watch movies and the world which we live, we don't know and we don't realize, but it is a Christian or Roman world, a Greek world, or the world of Europe where we are living. We are wearing the shoes of Nike, and Nike is also a name of a goddess. We say we want a home like palace, but the palace has come from the name of Palo, the deity of palace. So, most of the our terms or vocabulary is connected to the mythology of the West. So, when you are writing for a particular culture, the names you give, it's good that you follow that culture, whatever, for whatever you are writing. And somewhere it should represent present time also. Now, when to start the story? You have an idea and you want to write the story. So, this is what I was telling to my friend who is producing something, that when to start the story. I gave him an example which I want to give you, and you understand with this example that what is the difference between a screen story and a normal story. And you forget everything, structures. You forget 3 act structure, you forget 1 act, 2 act, whatever structures, hero's journey, just forget the hero's journey. The example which I am going to give you is something which will give you an idea of what is there on the screen, what should be there on the screen. See, there are many types of films. Some are emotional films. I won't say that what I am going to tell you is dealing with everything, like it is a thumb rule, but at least it will give you some idea. You must have seen Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park. In the movie Jurassic Park, there is a scene where a small dinosaur comes in a community kitchen. I think, if I am right. This scene is one of my favorite scenes in cinema as a scriptwriter. And this scene is when I am writing, I always keep this scene in the mind to create the kind of excitement which was created in this scene. And not only action, not only in horror or not only in thriller, but what we have to see in that scene is the kind of excitement, and this kind of excitement is all about cinema. For me, you can make movies on various topics, but excitement should be the main character of the writing. So in this scene, the dinosaur comes. Now you have written a story. Suppose I you write a story. There was a boy. He was born to a poor family. His father was struggling. His mother was struggling. They decided to go to a city. They went there. The father got a very lower job. The mother starts working. This boy had a dream to become some big officer in the government, and he started doing some work, and the end is he wanted to show that he becomes an officer. So this whole story was there. Now from where you will start the story? First thing, you will start such story from the moment that person starts preparing for the exam. Rest of the thing is backstory. Come into the action. Jump into the action. Don't get that backstory. That you can show, as I have made 2 videos on 2 classes I have taken on backstory. You can go to that. So that you can watch, and so backstory you can leave and jump into the right there into the action. And from the very beginning to the very end, keep the things excited. First thing, excited. Blow, 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 blow. At the end, it should be a very. It's like a size of balloons you are blowing up. Small balloon, bigger balloon, much bigger, much bigger. In the last, it's like that balloon which we see in the sky. So that is all your ending visually. So jump right into the main crisis of the story. This is the main crisis. Now that scene of Jurassic Park, which I would say is a kind of, for me it is a kind of my mentor into the script writing, is the scene where a small dinosaur enters into a community kitchen. and there are some one or two kids, and we see the movements now happening. He's jumping, he's sniffing, he's watching here and there, and we look at the reactions of the kids. And some shots are direct, continuous shots without cut, long shots. And sometimes he comes very near to that kid. So there are two aspects in that scene. One is the intensity of the villain. I have already taken one class, and I think day before yesterday, I said about the villain, that villain should be very. So the dinosaur here is the villain, but apart from that thing, uh, you should try to understand that that scene, that vocabulary, that scene is all about script writing. Script writing is not about writing too many dialogues, but action. Jump into the action, exciting action that you keep in your story. So when you are developing an idea into a story, keep these things in your mind. Now come to the part that how many pages should be there. As I have said, first write one idea, which is also called logline. Now someone asked yesterday about the tagline, logline. They are same, but tagline is not the proper word for movie stories or episodes. Like tagline is used somewhere else, but not in reference to the films. So when you are working for a film or web series, say it is my log line. That would be better. It's my short synopsis, or it is my one liner. That would be better to communicate your idea to the director or producers. And once you have written that, write 2 pages considering my views which I have told you, and you can also search, and you can also go and also depending upon the work you have done, like how many things you have watched, how many movies, how many web series, and how much critical you have become. Critical doesn't mean that you end up finishing everything. Critical means that you have ability to see what is working and what is not working. Like it's a very common exercise in India. The filmmakers and their team crew members, they often go after releasing a movie to watch two three screenings to know the reactions of the audience. So like that, you also watch it to know what is working and what is not working. So first write 2 pages, A4 size, font size 12. Then you write a long synopsis of 5 pages for a movie script, which should be between 90 minutes to, you can write 120 minutes is one of the very accepted uh, length, but you can go and write a 150-minute story, like not 120, 150 minutes or 180-minute story. And particularly in India, they love watching long movies, so you can also write. But considering that if they are songs, then that length you should keep in mind if you are writing a story. So that is a kind of a very. Now someone asked me about the books on script writing. So there are many books. You can go to the books, and nowadays lot of thing is available on internet. You can go and read that, but it is not something that you will just learn from the books. You can also watch videos of other writers also, what they talk. That is very important, and your own experience. And mythology, never forget the mythology part. It's already there, and the part that uh, like new thing with whatever you want to add, like within that newness of the script, and the part that At what stage you are making a movie? At what stage you are making a movie? Are you making as a newcomer, or are you already established into the films? Some messages have come. So book is not, you can go and buy any book. All books are good. Some books are have something, but it is not an exam that you are going to pass. So it's, don't worry much about that. Main thing is write and research. So some questions have come: how to start a fight and how can we end the fight? How many pages needed to make to our movie? That answer is given by Mr. Gopi. Samir has also asked that how to start a fight and how we can end the fight. You mean to say that to start and write an action scene? Very good question. And I am telling you that write an action scene. Many people say action movies are bad, but write an action scene. First, write, become a child. When you are writing an action scene, become a child. Considering the kind of project, the kind of budget you are getting for the movie. Like a child, like the children plays, rough and tumbles. Kids, like they play as they are fighting. And in a slow motion. And write that scene with imagination. Now, how to begin that and how to end that is, it's not relevant. That is, I mean, relevancy in the sense that you can begin. Suppose a man is going in a bus, and some goons come and they stop the bus, and they are having some quarrel with the driver, and one man gets down and he asks them. They immediately slaps him. They slaps him. He stands there for a few seconds. He saw a bamboo nearby. He saw a stick. He brings that and start beating them. This action begins. So it's up to you. You can watch movies. It's not like that. So someone has given some name of the book, Sitfield. Yeah, you can read that. 101 script writing, hero's journey, book by Sitfield. Is their final draft mobile app or another app that can be used to write on mobile? I don't know about the mobile app because I won't say that go with that. Go with the computer writing. Celtex is a free, but I have used Celtex. Celtex, I didn't like Celtex much actually, because see, if you write today, tomorrow you will be asked to give it in the final draft. Now there are some other aspects related to final draft. It also gives you reports of character. Suppose I want to see that where my action takes place. So I can easily get the report of all the scenes. Suppose I have used the location, say near Church Road. Now near Church Road has come 10 times in my script. And when I am going to shoot, I am producing, I want that report of my near Church Road area scene. So I can go to final draft and I can take out those reports, and reports will give me that in these are the scenes, and I could easily jump to those scenes in the scripts. So that is the production's work is easy with final draft. And remember that it is a widely used. If you are using its if you are using its pirated version, many people can't don't want to buy it early. If you are using its pirated version, then you have to keep saving the files after almost every page. One page you write, then save it, and save it in a rich text format, because what happens that it will automatically goes out and then you have to restart your computer or something like that. So I would suggest don't use any pirated version. Go, and it is an investment. I mean, if you look at the kind of thing it can give, I mean, we buy telephones, like phones we buy, but it is a professional tool, and I think it's worth investing in that tool. Now one more thing which I wanted to tell in this class is about about the dialogue parts. So dialogue should be lesser, it should be minimal, but it also depends upon the time and place and the audience for who you are writing the dialogue. So I saw one interview of a film director, and once he wrote a very kind of a old style dialogue, and one actor, big actor, didn't want to act in that, and he said that if this won't work, then I will stop working in the films or you stop working in the films. So this thing they had, but once that movie was released and it was into a kind of Urdu dialogue, it was in, and but that movie once it was released, people liked that dialogue. So writing dialogue depends upon the time and place and the people who are watching, and also the time and place of the characters. If you are writing a movie based in Victorian era or based in a Mughal era, then you have to go and search the popular words of that time. You have to go and read the literature. But is it important that we should use such heavy words? No, it is not important. There are scenes in the movies where you can use, they are using very recent words in the movies which were set up many years back, like they are historical periods, but they are not always using very old words. So this freedom you can get, considering that it shouldn't impact the theme of the movie. So better to use. I remember one thing. Was a movie which came. It was a historical movie based on Akbar, and the name of the movie was Jodha Akbar in India. And there were some dialogues like, and we have heard such dialogue because we were watching movies of old movies we have watched, but the generation who was watching at that time, and I watched that in cinema hall, and there were some dialogues and they were clapping on those dialogues. So rather than paying attention to the movies, those dialogues became so distracting. Takiya, Kalam. I mean, so don't put such dialogues which distracts the movie. If even if you are writing, so try to come up with the suggestions. If there is no need, there is the dialogue is difficult, or you think dialogue is there is just something. So come with suggestions. But of course, sometimes people may enjoy such things. You can't say that such things doesn't work. But you as a writer, you should also keep in mind the audience for whom you are making the movie, for whom you are writing the movie. So keep this thing, very important thing which I told you, that jump into the story. Don't drag too much about the past. Okay, now come to the characters and dialogues. So dialogue, and what kind of dialogue should be there? Like, see, a dialogue should reveals the character of the person in the movie, its backstory, the history, the character, the nature of the person should be with the dialogue, should be inconsistent with the dialogues. And slang. And what is a slang? A slang is a language which is spoken by a particular group of people in a particular area. A slang is very interesting. I mean, it is it people like slangs in on screen. They might not like it in news or in a public meetings, but they like it when they watch it in movies. But slang doesn't mean you put so much abusive languages. Nowadays, Netflix is, when they are dubbing into Hindi, they are giving all the kind of we call it galis or abusive languages, which are not even there in the original story. If you read the, if you listen the English version or some other version, if you read the subtitles, those things are not there, but they put it considering that people will like it, but it also becomes very difficult to digest. I mean, when you are watching with your family, so try to avoid that thing. It's okay sometimes, and it should be limited to the script. It shouldn't offend the language shouldn't offend the audience. And consider this thing, that nowadays when the watching is, much of the watching is taking on mobiles also, but people also watch with families, with friends. So keep that thing in the mind, but reveal the character with the dialogue. My every dialogue should reveal my character. As it is said that the reality of person comes when he or she opens the mouth. So keep this thing in the mind that what a person is talking, he is revealing his character. It doesn't mean that his language is bad or he is not very good at words, but talking also includes dialogues also, and that is the verbal part, and non-verbal part also, his reactions, his or her reactions. That is also, I would say, kind of dialogue without words. So any question anyone wants to ask? Gopi has given this okay, he has given a link of so many. I think they are writing softwares. But before going to the actual script, write your short synopsis, write your long synopsis, and write step outline. And I tell you one thing, that when you are writing step outline, you can go further step one more step further, that when you are writing step outline, you can also write detailed step outline. And when you have written that, you can easily copy and paste that action into your script. So your script will be readier, but don't write dialogue at that time. Write dialogue only at the time of script writing. So I am going to finish this class. Thank you very much everyone. Thanks for coming. Tomorrow I think Bodhaditya will come, and if he will come, he will tell about more. He will tell more to us about editing part, and I will also start some new chapters. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.